Aïe, aïe, aïe. C'était moi cela, ça qui a appelé nous des bons moments, nous devons passer ensemble. À toutes ces îles des Antilles. Nous devons passer un peu dans la Guadeloupe, Martinique, Casanou, Dominique, Saint-Lucie. Même sur le continent sud-américain, Guyane. Nous devons passer d'Haïti, Saint-Martin, Saint-Thomas. Les Antilles en général, quoi. Entends nous de chanter les morceaux comme Anti-Guyane qui doux. Atata. Tirer vite là ça. Nom kabat nom. Ouais. Ouais, nous passons le bon moment ensemble. Attention mes amis, c'est la nouvelle forme. Faut pas être surpris. La nuit de la femme. Yo qui travaille toute la journée. Répète pour tout là. Les hommes qui tuent manger. Gardez les bébés. Ouais, nous passons le bon moment ensemble avec ce petit morceau là, ça. Nous bien danser. Nous tenons le petit morceau quand jamais voir ça. You got to hear my soul. Yeah, man, begin. Cada slip so. Un jour, à sous plage à causer. Un jeune femme suisse m'a rencontré. Jamais voir ça.
Jamais, jamais.
Jamais voir ça.
Jamais, jamais.
Et c'est soleil là pour rentrer en neige là. La solitude, jamais voir ça.
Jamais, jamais.
Jamais voir ça.
Jamais, jamais.
Laisse ce soleil là pour rentrer en neige là. Soleil. Oh yeah, yeah. Maçon confirmé pour rien. Maçon dit où? Jamais pas ça. Il y a un petit point là, les Antilles. On s'en fait à boire, à manger, un roula. Petit punch là.
All right. Good evening to everyone. All of you are tuned into VTJM Radio, while with us live on Facebook and also live on YouTube. Welcome to another Vibes In episode for another Monday night. My name is Donovan Fabian. I'm your host, and my co-host is Mr. Fitzroy Kojak Augustus. And tonight we have a person who really needs no introduction, but it is with absolute pleasure and honor to welcome to the studios of VTJM and Vibes In a legend. He says he's not a legend, but I can assert that he's a legend. The man himself, Gordon Henderson, and we are so grateful for you, especially being where you are with the time difference, that you would be so gracious with your time to be with us tonight. Thank you very much and welcome to Vibes In.
Thanks a lot for having me. The pleasure is mine. You guys make me feel very good. Artists in general like to be appreciated, and I feel your love, man. I feel your appreciation. Thanks a million.
No, absolutely, it's genuine. And let me say a special good evening to all again the listeners. And this time, let me welcome DJ Kojak himself to welcome Gordon Henderson to our program.
Yes, good evening, my brother. It's a pleasure. I mean, words can describe, I might be saying that, but you don't really understand that to have a brother like you of your caliber, as what it should say, the godfather of Cadas Lipso, it's an honor and a pleasure to have you on Vibes In, where we can give you your flowers. We don't want to wait when you pass to say, oh, Mr. Gordon Henderson was a good man. We want to give that to you tonight, my brother. So to all the VTGM listeners, we are on YouTube and Facebook. Welcome, my brother. Welcome. And as Donovan said, to see you're so far and to take that time out, you have no clue how much we appreciate you. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, I mean, with somebody of your caliber, I don't even know where to start. I mean, there's so much to talk about. We only have 2 hours, and I know we cannot do justice to your work and your contribution in 2 hours. But in 2 hours, we'll learn a lot from you because you're a man of great experience and great smarts, and so we will look for you to impart some knowledge on us, and hopefully we can learn a lot and better ourselves in the music industry and in other aspects of life. So I'll start by saying, Mr. Henderson, tell us where you're from, and how you grew up in Dominica.
Yeah, well, I was born in Roseau, but I grew up in Portsmouth, so I always say I'm from Portsmouth because I was told that I went to Portsmouth when I was about 1 year old. And I figure that you guys know the Portsmouth area, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So my father was transferred to Portsmouth as a telephone lineman. In those days, there was no wireless. Huh? It was so his job was a very hard job. There was no coastal road, and when a line was broken, his district was from Collyho to Marigot on foot. There was no coastal road, and we lived 1 mile from city. Well, I say city, from town center in Portsmouth, and the area is called 1 mile.
1 mile, yes.
One neighbor, it was the head of the agricultural center that still exists, I am told. And much later on, we moved to Zikak. For those who don't know, Zikak is the name of what we call in English fat pork, but it's the Carib name of that wild fruit, because that area was covered with Zikak, and it extended into Chance. I noticed that today Zikak and Chance, they're all inhabited with houses and streets.
Yes.
And whatever. But way back, it was more of a thing. So I grew up in Portsmouth, went to the Portsmouth Government School that is now the Roosevelt Douglas Primary, and returned to Roseau at 12 years old to go to St. Mary's Academy. So basically, that's my upbringing in Dominica, early years.
Okay. So your father, I see you have the last name Henderson. Where was your father from?
Well, one would relate it to Grand Bay, but that is a very indirect way. My
Mm.
father was from Delis. Some people choose to say Delices.
Hmm.
And my mother was from La Plaine. So
Okay.
we were strangers in Portsmouth. They were both from the East. My father's father was, of course, from Granby, but it would seem that every Henderson at the time came from Granby.
Hmm.
We should also realize that at that time, as I said, there were very few roads, and people who were policemen or teachers, government employees, if you were from Granby and you were transferred to, say, Viecas or Delis, it's like you were sent to another country. So we are many cases now. I'm not calling judgment. I'm just bringing a historical fact.
Right.
Many cases of guys having complete other families wherever they. So my father must have been one of those from a Henderson, a Grand Bay Henderson, but born in Delis.
Okay. Okay. Understood. Understood. Yeah. So you went to the St. Mary's Academy, and after you left school, what did you venture into?
Well, the St. Mary's Academy at the time was run by Americans, a religious order. Um, they were called brothers. I don't know if they still exist, but they were like male nuns, if you will.
Right.
And in those days, brothers, priests, and nuns wore specific clothing that they called habits, like dresses. And when I left SMA, or when I was leaving SMA, I decided that I wanted to be a brother. I
Mm.
don't know if that was my vocation, but there's one thing that bothered me was the vow of chastity, because they had the same thing like the priests.
Hmm.
So they gave me a year to adapt, and they sent me with the nuns to learn to become a teacher. And I taught at the St. John's School for that year. But end of the year, we all quickly realized that that was not my vocation.
So what drew you to the brotherhood? What made you want to be a brother?
There were many things. I liked their lifestyle. As I said, they were Americans, and they brought certain things to our education system in Dominica. They brought what was called the Glee Club, which is something like a choir. I think that most American schools have a Glee Club.
Yeah.
And that is where Fitzroy Williams and I got to know each other and got involved in music.
Mm.
They brought basketball to Dominica. They brought shuffleboard. There's lots of things. And besides, when you became a brother, you didn't do your final vows immediately. You were sent to college, a college that is still owned, called Iona College in La Rochelle, I think, or Rochelle, whatever, in New York State, somewhere
Oh,
upstate.
New Rochelle.
New Rochelle, yeah.
Okay.
La Rochelle is the old one. It's like York and New York, England and New England.
Mm-hmm.
So New Rochelle, yeah. And one brother told me that if I became a brother, I would get free. Well, not really free. There's a deal. You get university education, and if you do not want to be a brother at the end, you repay for that education by teaching in one of their schools. They had one school in Antigua called St. Joseph's Academy, one in Dominica, and a few across the United States.
Yeah,
And
the one Dominica is you say Saint John.
St. Mary's, the one
Oh,
in
Saint,
Antigua,
okay, okay, Saint Mary's.
and the one in Antigua is St. Joseph. St.
Okay,
Joseph.
okay. Yeah, but I know you said you taught at the Saint John School. Is that in Portsmouth?
Yeah, in
Okay,
Portsmouth.
okay,
And with the nuns.
okay.
And the
Yes,
whole
yes.
idea was to train me to become a teacher, but within the context of religion and that sort of thing.
Okay, all right. Okay, so let's talk about the music. So where was the music journey born? How did it start?
It began at the St. Mary's Academy with Fitzroy and two other guys. We started a band called the Rebs, Rebbs. In fact, we wanted to call ourselves the Rebels. It's a little bit too hard for the, you
For
know.
that kind of school?
Yeah. So it's the Rebs. We didn't trick anyone. Anyway, and we imitated at the time. I mentioned that because we were very far from Creole. Nobody in Dominica wanted to sing in Creole. Nobody in Dominica wanted to be associated with Creole. People would say things like, I cannot talk patois and that sort of thing. It was an idiom. I don't want to call it a language yet, that that was looked down upon. So we played music, and we played music from England at the time, very popular. The Beatles, Rolling Stones, and we imitated them so much that we wore turtlenecks. Now,
Dominica, in that hot sun.
not turtleneck sweaters, because it would have been too hot. I can name Astafan sold just the neck. So you would wear your shirt and you would have the neck. You understand? And you'd look like the Beatles. So perhaps. And to go quickly, because I know we only have 2 hours. After that, I got involved in a number of bands, but the determining band was one called Voltage 4, another quartet. And it comprised a guy from Portsmouth called Chris Francis, late. He passed. Oliver Cruikshank, who later became the drummer of Exile One, he too passed. Anaison Rabes, that many people in Dominica might not know, was a musician, and myself on vocals and keyboards. And we went to Guadeloupe and did a residency at a club over there. And this is what sparked me to get into music as a professional.
So it's very interesting that a lot of the Karas people I speak to, they always tell a story of they traveling to Guadeloupe. You know, some way along the journey, Guadeloupe seemed to have been the
hub.
Not the hub, no, but the
Foundation,
that voted you up. And, you know, man, the stepping stone, if you want to call it that, right? So tell me what was that about? How did Guadeloupe become the place where you all decided to go to be successful or try to be successful?
Well, when you introduced me, and you plural, you introduced me as a legend. one of the legendary things that I will accept is before we created Voltage 4, and this is important for those that are interested in the history. We had very poor musical instruments in Dominica.
Mm-hmm.
And one day I was working with an insurance company at the time. Insurance salesmen were dressed with ties, sometimes with suits and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to a bank that they call the Penny Bank. That's a very important story for many reasons.
Mm-hmm.
It was owned and managed by someone called Mr. J.B. Charles, who was the father of
Mr. Charles.
Dame Eugenia Charles,
Mm-hmm.
former Prime Minister. I had no account in the bank. So I went there with my briefcase and my tie and whatever, naive, probably even stupid. And I asked to see the manager and asked for a loan to go to the closest place that we could purchase musical instruments. I had made all my inquiries.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a business plan that we didn't call it by that name, but the business plan was in my head.
Mm-hmm.
How am I going to refund? I told him that a part was guaranteed from my salary, which was a pretty good salary at the time. And I intended to play in village feasts and other gigs that we had in Dominica at the time. And today, when I reflect, the guy was in advance because the guy gave me the loan.
Hmm.
And I went to Guadeloupe. That was the closest place with music stores where you could purchase decent musical instruments.
Mm-hmm.
So, in my mind, that was the beginning of the Guadeloupe connection. The second part of it, as I told you, I made contacts over there, and we went with Voltage for to play. We thought it would have been a gig, but it ended up being the entire summer. Too long to explain because the summer vacation time is sacred in France and in
Mm-hmm.
the French departments. So there was a club that employed us for an entire summer. That was the genesis of Dominican bands. Before us, there were bands that went to play weekends. There were
Mm-hmm.
the Diamonds and the Gaylords and that sort of thing. But the first band to do a residency, and this residency sent me to a guy called Henry Debs,
Are we
Henry
Debs?
Debs, right? He was the owner of a little recording studio. We did an album with him, and at the end, he said he cannot market that kind of music. What kind of music was it? What all Dominican bands played at the time, reggae, spelt G-A-Y, R-E-G-G-A-Y, reggae. I trust that you guys know why the Jamaicans changed it from G-A-Y to G-A-E.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time, if
Well,
you look,
honestly, that's the first time I hear that reggae was spelled so. I'll be honest.
but just
I
look
li-
at any old, well, right now you're streaming and so on, but look
right.
at any old LP and all early reggae music from Jamaica was spelled with G-A-Y.
Okay.
And well, they will explain to you why they felt they didn't want the G-A-Y. And in any case, to go back to the topic, Dominican bands at the time, we played reggae, we played soul music, Otis Redding and James Brown and that sort of thing. We played calypso, but not much seasonal calypso like it's done up to today in Dominica. Like every carnival, you get your new hits. There were standards, calypso standards. So that is what we recorded at Debs. And at the end, Debs gave me the master, gave it to me, told me he cannot sell that music because, first of all, he didn't do LPs at the time. He did what we call 45 singles.
Yes, 45, yes.
Yeah, and he advised me to go to Barbados and manufacture it. And I would sell it in the market he thought that was suitable. I went to Dominica, gave it to the radio station, and we were happy that the radio played it. And I didn't have the knowledge or the funds to go to Barbados as he advised. And so that was the second phase of the Guadeloupe. Answering your question. So from a historical standpoint, we're going step by step. That was phase 2.
So let me ask you before you go any further, what was the name of that album? What is the name of your first album?
That album didn't have a name, bro. We recorded
Right, so how many tracks you had on there?
8 songs. 8 songs.
And they were mixed, reggae.
Yeah. That's what Dominican musicians played at the time. And besides the band, to give you an idea, the band was a quartet, and most of our repertoire was we copied 2 bands from the United States. One called the Meters. They're from New Orleans. So if you do some research, you go on YouTube, you find the Meters. Everybody of that age group in Dominica knew Voltage 4 to be played like the Meters. And the other quartet that we copied, American again, was Booker T and the MGs.
So how many band members were there at the time, and what were the names?
No, I told you, you forgot. On the drums was Crookie, Oliver Cruikshank, that we call Crookie, now deceased. On guitar was Chris Francis, now deceased, but he was later replaced by Pat Patrice, that came to Exile One at some point.
Pat Patrice is my cousin.
Right. So Pat Patrice one day, because he has a lot of history, he can tell you about Voltage 4 in Guadeloupe, because he spent much more time with Voltage 4 as a professional group than
Exile One.
Chris Francis.
Chris, okay.
Years after, I pulled him into Exile One because Exile One was established, but there's a big gap.
Okay.
On bass guitar was Anaison Bess, who is involved in tourism in Dominica, and Taurus is the name of his company, for a quick promotion. And I was singer and keyboardist.
Okay.
So if you listen to Booker T and the MJs and the Meters, that will give you an idea of the kind of repertoire. But we kind of made it Caribbean by adding reggae and some calypso. At the time, there was a group from Barbados called the Merrymen. And they were more or less a quartet. I think they were 4 of them as well. And they were more or less on the calypso style. But we didn't like that type of calypso. We were more of the Trinidad type of calypso that people in Dominica still love today.
Right.
So my question to you, the songs now, they were like covers or original songs you guys had?
Originals. That was always what it was in my head. And
everything was written by you?
Yeah. Well, that I was always in Voltage 4 as in Exile 1. Later, I suppose we will talk about the Exile 1. I was always a little bit older than the other guys and leader of the group and projected myself as songwriter, composer more than performer. But that all went together. So this is why from that time, I was already acquainted to copyright.
Mm.
And the copyright story could be a whole chapter by itself.
Yes.
I introduced every other person. Now I'm saying it, and you can question them, including Mr. McCarthy Marie, who is the copyright expert in the region. I introduced every one of them to copyright. I hate to do these kinds of interviews because it sounds like I'm boasting.
No, it's not boasting,
No, it's
my
not.
brother.
It's not boasting at all.
The vibes in. Yo, the
Yes,
truth.
I mean
the truth stands
you
on
are
its own. You know, it's that's not no
you
boasting.
you like you say, you are giving historical facts.
Yeah.
And this is important, very,
Very,
important.
very important.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know it's important, but I find myself saying I so often. But one of the reasons that I stress on it is because most people don't know that, or they simply overlook it because they thought that certain things fell from the sky. And it hurts me a little bit when I think that I've been involved in copyright since that period. That is before 1973, because Exile One began years after 1973. And recently, you will know that Dominica had a chance of having won some soca, big soca competition in Trinidad, and it didn't happen over a copyright issue,
Yes.
Yeah. And so I'm wondering, but what's happening? Over 50 years ago, I drew as many people as possible as I could along the way. I don't want to call too many names, but I called Mark's name, Mark Murray, because he made it a profession. He's an economist, university trained economist. But he saw that copyright and he understood that copyright was the most and is probably the most lucrative area of the entertainment, the music industry, and he made it his expertise, if you will. We didn't do a lot of progress in that area. So, okay.
That's very interesting.
My question to you is what triggered you? How you came up with that copyright thing? What
piqued your interest in copyright?
Oh, well, since I was at the academy, I spent most of my time at the Roseau Library reading all kinds of books about show business. I'll tell you a quick story. I used to sit at the academy next to a guy called Kevin Higgins. I don't know if he's still around. He became a very important banker in the Caribbean, but he was the son of a Jamaican agronomist, a big shot, if you will. And I, for some reason, although I was more interested in music and boxing at SMA, I was pretty good with my academics. I think I loved languages because I like to write. And writing songs, you would need a vocabulary, you would need to understand certain things. I was fortunate to do Latin, French. At the time, I think they dropped Latin after a while. But I was sitting next to Kevin Higgins, and one day, the principal, who was one of his brothers, Christian brothers, called him to his office and told him something that Kevin told me. the principal told him, "You are a guy from a well-to-do family, and you're wasting your time with guitar playing boys like Gordon Henderson."
Wow.
This hurt me. I mean, I was hurt by that. But I decided I will take my revenge, quote on.
So I guess it was a form of motivation to you, right?
Oh, that was the greatest motivation that you could.
Right.
And I went to the Roseau Library and I knew everything about Sam Cooke, everything about American artists who owned. I knew their biographies by heart, where they were born, how they were raised, what they did when they had their first hit. And I almost emulated that, you know. They had their own record companies, their own recording studios, and all what they did. And this is where, at the academy, I understood what copyright was. So when I went to Guadeloupe, I noticed that people in Guadeloupe were not that tuned. They didn't know too much about copyright. So I had to find out. And this is why those who follow me may find out that just a few years ago, I celebrated 50 years with SACEM, that is the French Copyright Society.
Yeah.
And that is before a number of people that I met in Guadeloupe, musicians I'm talking about, that I met in Guadeloupe, they didn't know, and that sort of thing. So I was prepared from SMA, and the Roseau Library was my school, by extension.
That's interesting.
I have a quick question. So while that band voted for, what are other bands you had in Dominica at that time during when you first formed that band? You had any knowledge of any other bands?
Yeah, there were many bands in Dominica at the time. There was a band from the Point Michel area called the Swinging Busters. Now, Chubby and the brothers, played with the Swinging Busters. I don't know if the Midnight Groovers, they were around yet. They probably were. But if they were, they didn't play Cadence because Cadence didn't exist.
Right.
Of course, there was the Swing Stars.
Yeah.
Most of all the Swing Stars, because when I went to SMA, I lived at the hostel, which was just maybe about 500 yards away, and they practiced at the top of Constitution Hill, and I used to go and peep through their louvers to watch them practice. There were many bands in the Roseau area, the Boys and Them, that there were younger group called the Wooden Stool. There were many groups. In Portsmouth, there was a group called the Technics. I played with Technics. There was a famous deceased Neil Joseph, who was a great guitarist, and the Garraway brothers, Derek and Newton, played keyboards and trumpet. There were quite a few bands. And let me just say that when I was a boy in Portsmouth, strangely, one of the biggest bands in Dominica that toured and went to play village fests all over the island, strangely came from Collio. But in those days, there were no electrical instruments. So the drum set, what we know as a drum set today, was shared among 3 or 4 guys. One guy had the bass drum around his neck, boom, boom. And all the other instruments, they had brass, they had stringed instruments, guitars, and so on, but there were no vocals. That's another thing. Most of the bands, Bell's Combo existed, but most of the bands, and Halibut probably could give you the history of Bell's Combo. At first, they played mostly instrumental. So vocals was slowly coming in the days of Voltage 4.
Okay. All right.
Because I understand that they say Philip Hosford was one of the first vocalists.
And in Swing Stars.
Because I heard it on the interview Fitzroy Williams with Wadix, and he say most time when you guys went and play was just instruments, and you recall.
No, not you guys. Those guys.
Again?
Not you guys.
No. Not you guys. I'm saying like the early bands. No, sorry. Let me correct myself.
They were playing before me, you know.
Okay.
I was a little boy walking from the hostel, picked to see these guys rehearse.
Okay.
You understand? But they were mainly instrumental bands.
Right.
So people like Philip Hosford and so on, who played with the boys and them before the Swinging Stars. He's probably the first or among the first. But I was still at school in those days, eh?
Okay.
And even if we may be of the same age group, I was a little fella from Portsmouth. I decided to do my thing when I went to see J.B. Charles, when I decided to go to Guadeloupe. But these guys, that was not part of their route. They followed after.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, I can quickly say that years after I produced Swinging Stars, maybe you don't know that, I brought them to Trinidad and did an album called Grotto Bouillet.
Grotto Bouillet, I remember that.
Yeah. Somebody told us about that. Who was it? Somebody told us about that. Yes, about Gordon Henderson and Hosford.
I think it's Levi.
Levi, because Levi is the one who
yes, Levi. That's right. Levi.
He wrote
Levi.
the song.
Yes,
and
Levi.
He sang the song, but it was released on my label. So that's the label that discovered, quote unquote, Ophelia and put her on the market and that sort of thing.
So let me ask you a quick question. You say you was a salesman. Who did you work for, though? The insurance guy?
I worked for a company called United Security, and there were fellas like Randall Regis, Psycho from Grand Bay.
Yes.
There's Patrick Bush.
Newton Francis.
Newton Francis is Psycho.
Yeah.
He was like my boss or my immediate boss, but the boss of the insurance company was a lady called Mrs. Elaine Pringle. And I skipped that part because I wanted to skip some detail.
Right.
Isn't that I got employed with them? I didn't know how to sell insurance. As a matter of fact,
what was it? Life insurance or?
It was all kinds of insurance, life insurance, medical insurance. But I inherited a portfolio of a guy who had emigrated to the United States. They needed a musician because they had a band called Security Pearls. So the company was United Security. So the truth of the matter is, when I created Voltage 4, you remember I told you I was dressed up all in this.
Yes, a businessman.
Yeah, I was in fact playing for Security Pearls and working as an insurance agent that I didn't know anything about, because all I had to do is just run around and pick up money from people from a portfolio that a guy before me had built.
Right.
Because had it been for me, I don't think I would have succeeded selling one policy.
That's not your forte.
No.
So
And besides, I think I was very, very shy. So approaching people to sell insurance, I was good. My shyness was lost only when I was on stage. But when I was out of stage, I was very, very shy. Even chasing girls. Lucky thing, the girls used to love musicians and come up to them.
So there's a big break behind you then. There's a big their own break.
So I spent practically my whole life until I got married with being chased.
But anyway, time is going very, very fast. We have so much more to talk about. But I want to go into Carter's music.
Yeah.
The Carter's music genesis, and
Right.
there have been several interesting stories of how Carter's music started. So I want you to tell us, how did Carter's music begin in Dominica?
It did not begin in Dominica.
Okay,
And I
where did it begin? Tell us where it
want
began.
but it began with Dominicans.
Okay.
Now the story is years after, since it began with Exile One, years after this Voltage 4 story, we went to Puerto Rico, Voltage 4. And we discovered in Puerto Rico we couldn't play and get residencies like in Guadeloupe. So we were disappointed, and the guys went back home. And I decided that I want to stick around in Puerto Rico, but one of the ways to stay was to go to school. So I got enrolled at the University of Puerto Rico. So in that way, I could stay in Puerto Rico. It's important to know that in those days, Dominica as a country didn't exist. We were a colony.
Right.
So we used to have British passports.
Right.
It is important, particularly for the young people who want to trace the true history. So at the end of my first year at UPR, the University of Puerto Rico, and what I did, I was a dishwasher in restaurants to make money to pay tuition and that sort of thing. The hardest work I ever did in my life. Some people might believe that dishwashing is a joke. I mean, the first week I thought that my back was going to break. Anyway, I was going home on vacation, and I stopped, and this is an important part of the cadence lipso, because both parts, we could just say cadence, but both parts are important. Cadence,
Right. And Lipso, yeah.
So I stopped in Guadeloupe, because in those days you could buy a ticket on Liat and do what they call island hopping. There was no ferry at the time. I stopped in Guadeloupe to check out some of the old friends that I had from the Voltage 4 days. And I met a guy called Ipomen Leova that I later on produced on Sultan and had him as an original member of Exile One. We had to drop him, and I'll explain later why we had to drop him.
Okay.
I met him on a square in Pointe-à-Pitre, and he told me, oh, there is a guy doing an album at the competition studio called Cellini. It wasn't Debs. And he wants to do a soul song in English. So if you come tonight at that studio, at the time I had never done a recording that was released. Remember, what I had done with Debs was never released. I went to the studio. I composed a song, sang it, and the band that was playing for the guy, Edouard Labo is his name. The record can be sought on Discogs and whatever, or YouTube. The guys who were playing as session musicians were guys from a famous band in Guadeloupe at the time. A band they used to tour, they used to go to France, all over the place. When they heard me sing and saw the way that I worked, they invited me to come to their band as the English singer, because they had a Creole singer and a Spanish language singer.
Mm-hmm.
So I went into that band, Levy King. One of the players of Levy King was Pedro Decimus, who later, with Freddie Marshall, created Kassav.
Mm-hmm.
And the same Debs noticed that I was becoming popular as a soul singer, invited me to do one song that was the B-side of a record, a song titled Love, a soul song. The song became a big, big hit. It was manufactured and sold in Jamaica, in Barbados, in Suriname, in Holland. Later on, quickly, Debs told me, "You're doing good. Let's do an album." And this is where I decided I did not want to do the album with Levy King because they were too Creole, so to speak, strangely. And this is where I met Fitzroy Williams, old pal from SMA and the Rebs, and I asked him to recruit some musicians for me in Dominica. I took Levy King to Dominica just about National Day, in 3rd of November.
Mm-hmm.
We were not independent, so that's why I say
National Day, yes.
At the time. We had a meeting. He recruited the guys, but I wanted Crookie because of the experience that we had. We had a meeting at the Botanic Gardens. I still have a picture of that. Got them maybe a week later, brought them to Guadeloupe, where we recorded an album. The album had no Creole, no cadence, but it became popular. And now we're going to zero in on the real response to your question. We were invited, this is Exile 1, to France to play a dance. It wasn't a concert.
Mm-hmm.
So we played. After about an hour, people applauded, but this reggae and funk and whatever, the organizer of the dance came up to me as the leader of the band and told me, "We will have to reimburse the people because the audience were people from Martinique, Guadeloupe, French Guiana. They came there to dance, drink rum and dance. Right. And they like the funk, but that's not what they came for." So this is where Exile 1 collectively created Cadence Lipso. I told the guys I had about a year or two of experience of these kinds of balls that we called in Creole ball.
Mm-hmm.
From the Viking, I asked the drummer Crookie, that is significant, to play the crash cymbals, because in funk and calypso, people don't play the crash cymbal, that sort of thing.
Right.
Play it like that, because this is what the Haitians did, and the Haitians were the dominant dance music providers in that area.
Okay.
I asked the other guys to simplify the music instead of many chords. For those who understand harmony, as in calypso, let's go bring it to 2 chords, like the Haitians did. And I would sing the same repertoire in Creole, because by that time I spoke fluent Creole and almost fluent French at the time. The guys couldn't speak any Creole. And we went and we started playing the same repertoire, and the people started to dance. So this is how Cadence Calypso was born of Dominicans in Paris, France. Now,
Can you remember what was the first song? First Creole, first Cadence Calypso song?
no, because it would have been in English. It would have been one of the songs of the repertoire. I know we had a reggae song. If you look at the very first Exile One record, there was a reggae song called Getting Ahead. That went like, you cheated me when I was young. So all I had to do is, you know,
Yeah.
I just knew how to do that. So at that point, it was the birth of Cadence Calypso, but Cadence, it was our baby. The follow-up question is, there was a guy from Martinique called Baby Shaw, who was a dancer, who still lives. He is in Italy. He came up to me and he told me, I work at a record company. I want you guys to come to the record company on Monday. It was a Saturday night. I am going to convince my CEO to produce you guys. Quickly, we went to that record company, and the guy offered us, at the time, a significant amount of money to do an album. So he asked for, do you have songs? I said, yeah, man, we have songs. And then we started giving him a whole load of titles in English. He said, no, that's not what I want. We want what you did at the dance. We didn't want to do that. But finally he said, let's compromise. I will give you the same sum, and we want a Creole album. I agreed, and we went to the studio and we did 2 albums. The English one, I could tell you, didn't sell at all. And the Creole one, which is the first Cadence Calypso record, it was self-titled, Exile One. There were songs like Atata, Jamais Vois Ça, that sold over 3.5 million copies with its Portuguese version in Brazil. You can get that on Wikipedia, on YouTube. It's called Quero Você. But we didn't give the music a name because we didn't believe in Creole. We didn't want, we had what I call the Rihanna syndrome. Even Cassava had it too, you know. We wanted to be stars in America.
Okay.
English. We didn't want any Creole.
Okay.
Because we came from a country where peasants spoke Creole. There were only probably 2 places in Dominica where kids conversed in Creole, Granby and the Point Michel, Soufriere area. Creole was looked down
upon. Yes.
So we did that album for the money. So we stayed in France for a couple of weeks. Next thing we know, that the songs were hits in French Guiana, in Martinique, in Guadeloupe, not in Dominica. Dominica didn't know anything about that. And the same Debs, because I didn't tell you, he didn't want me to sing in Creole. He said that I had an English accent, and we had already started an international journey. Why break it up with Creole,
Creole.
that sort of thing? But when he saw the sales,
Mm-hmm.
he told us that as soon as we would arrive in Guadeloupe, because that's where we lived, we'd have to come to the studio to do a Creole album. And this second album, that is titled Face au Public, almost like Face the Public, which was recorded live, but in studio, not in public. And the applause was added. It had Akiaka.
Yeah, I
I
heard
remember
it.
that. Yeah, that big. Yeah, that was
I just
something
played. I just played it earlier tonight. Yes.
So this is the first time that the word cadence calypso came about. Now, it would seem that later on, Debs in his old days said that he came up with cadence calypso, because I heard Fitzroy saying that in the same Wardick show. Debs could not have done that, because I thought that we were onto something. If we had an album that was selling so well, and Debs wanted to do a second album, so the first time that, as a matter of fact, the word cadence, that a lot of Dominicans misspell, is in fact a very good English word. It is cadence.
Cadence. Yes.
Yeah, it means rhythm.
Yes.
So I thought of either calling it cadence lipso or compa lipso. That was to show the fusion of the Haitian and to touch the Haitian market too, and to keep our calypso identity.
Right.
There's no way, with all the respect and love that I have for the late Henry Debs, he could have come up with that. And I always thought that English speakers would call it cadence calypso. They didn't, because I noticed that many people didn't even know the word cadence at all. And since we were always talking Creole, it's cadence, it remained cadence, and so on. How it developed, that's the third part to the answer to your question, is when these two albums started selling all over the place, including over 60,000 albums in France. I have, if after I can send you a billboard, because people talking about Billboard. Billboard magazine came to France and did an article. They couldn't understand how this music was all over Africa, sold in the subways in large cities, Chicago, the Indian Ocean. All the record producers, including Debs, and by that time Martinique, got involved. They went to Dominica because they thought that that was an indigenous sound of Dominica, like reggae or spooch would come from Barbados, reggae from Jamaica, and some people used to think that calypso is typically Trinidadian. When they went to Dominica, they noticed that nobody played cadence, nobody ever knew anything about cadence. But the guys could adapt easily, because that's what you do. If you're a Dominican, you can play calypso. You can play, just adapt.
Right.
And that's what they did. And the record shows up to 40 bands came over that period to Guadeloupe and Martinique.
So
Wow.
let me ask you, so after Exile, who followed right after? Who was the next band right after to play?
The immediate other band that even lived for a while at the house that I had arranged for the first group of exiled ones to live in Gauzé, Guadeloupe, was the Gramax.
Max. All right.
And I must say it was mostly Jeff. Jeff would come by himself, and Jeff used to check me on a regular basis, and Gramax followed Exile One in almost everything. There were places that we played whenever we went on vacation. They would play. Before we went to France, and that's important because we might not have time to fit everything.
Okay. Hold on. So before you go into that part of the discussion, we quickly have to play a couple of ads, and we'll come right back. Yeah. So we take a very short break, and we will come back with Mr. Gordon Henderson.
Are you looking for a way to grow your business, expand your reach, or promote an upcoming event? Look no further than VTJM Radio. We offer customized advertising solutions tailored to your needs. Whether you're a small business or an established brand, our internet radio station provides the perfect platform to connect with your audience. With affordable rates and a wide range of listeners, VTJM Radio is your go-to partner for effective advertising. Get your message heard today. Call 718-307-8644 for more information. That's 718-307-8644. Let VTJM Radio help you make an impact. Tired of searching for the perfect hands to bless your locks? Look no further. Step into the world of the Lock God Salon, where artistry meets authenticity. Whether you're starting your lock journey or looking for a fresh retwist, maintenance, or styling, the Lock God is your go-to destination for luxury lock care. With 3 convenient locations, your crown is always close by. Harlem Flagship, 183rd Lenox Avenue at 119th Street in Manhattan, New York. Edgewater, New Jersey, 473 River Road, Suite 183. Brooklyn, 2230 Church Avenue, Suites 111 to 113 near Flatbush Avenue. Our skilled stylists deliver precision, passion, and unmatched results every time. Locks are more than just a style. They're a lifestyle, and at the Lock God Salon, we treat them like royalty. Book your appointment now at www.thelockgodsalon.com and purchase your products at www.shopniathelockgod.com or call us at 917-693-1019. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Nia The Lock God Products for the latest styles, tips, products, and transformations. The Lock God Salon, where your locks are legendary. Need to ship barrels, boxes, or cargo to the Caribbean? Choose Easy Barrel, the fast, reliable, and trusted shipping solution for your family and business. With weekly shipments from New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and Massachusetts, Easy Barrel makes shipping to the Caribbean easy. They'll come straight to your door to pick up your cargo. And yes, they're always on time. That's the Easy Barrel promise. Email us at info@easybarrel.com or visit our website at easybarrel.com or call 718-693-7447 today to schedule your pickup. Find them in Jamaica, Queens at 9129 143rd Street or in Mount Vernon at 287 East 3rd Street. Trust Easy Barrel, your dependable partner for shipping to the Caribbean. Easy Barrel, shipping made easy.
All right. Thank you very much for your patience. We are back with Mr. Gordon Henderson, and it's currently 6 minutes going on past 9 o'clock. And Mr. Henderson, we were talking about going to France before we took that break.
No, you was talking about Jeff and them living in the same place.
I think it passed
The
that.
Gramax, the Gramax.
Yeah.
Was it? That was where it was?
Yeah, but it was leading into moving into France.
Okay. Sorry.
Because after the success of the early Calypso albums, because as I said, we did one in France. We didn't have a name for the genre yet. We did one, the so-called live, and we did another one with Debs. By that time, people in Martinique, in the music industry, got very interested and started recording all kinds of bands from Dominica on both islands. And there was one insurance company, I think that the guy is still alive, called Jackie Nairadu. He owned a label called 3A, Twaza. And he gave me one of the most beautiful contract offers that I could get from the Caribbean. One of the reasons was they were trying to change the music capital site from Guadeloupe to Martinique. So this guy was at the head of an insurance company, so a financial institution, and invited Exile One to Martinique. He would give us villas. I think he was linked with BMW people, give us cars, hefty royalties. And I probably would have considered it, but we got an offer from a major record company, Barclay, in France. And it was the first time that a Creole group, the first time ever that a Creole group signed a production contract. The next one was almost 10 years after Kassav. I hope I'm clear what I'm saying. So the first group, Creole music group, to sign a major recording company contract was Exile One, followed by Kassav. And the reason that I brought up this Gramax thing is when we could not get this nice contract in Martinique, I think that was a turning point in the history of Gramax. That guy brought Gramax from Guadeloupe to Martinique. So this answers the group. But after that, I lost contact because there were so many Dominican bands living in Guadeloupe. Liquid Ice and breakaways from Gramax that became Below Men and Bell's Combo. I don't think that they moved to Guadeloupe. But many went to Guadeloupe and didn't really make it over there. But as I said earlier, it's been said that up to 40 groups recorded on both islands with that genre. So they made the movement.
Yeah. So Exile One were the trailblazers for Kara's music and bands following in your footsteps. I of course, maybe seeing and hearing about your success. It's a natural phenomenon for people to follow that path, right? Which you must get credit for. Like I said, you are, a legend and a trailblazer. And you know, there's a, great people with vision. They sometimes cause a wave, and this is all part of the Dominican, the musical and the cultural story of your contribution to the music. All right. So now tell us about Exile One, because I had to ask you. We skipped that part. So from your quartet, how did Exile One come into existence?
Yeah, you must have missed it. I brought in, I was in Leviking,
Oh, okay, yes, that's right. You did say that.
and I brought Leviking to Dominica.
Right.
And Fitzroy recruited musicians in Dominica to come to do an album with Debs with me.
Right.
And when they came across, well, they didn't really come to stay.
Mm-hmm.
They came to do an album with me. But I was encouraging them, guys, if we stick together, we could do great things and earn money.
Mm-hmm.
So they stayed. So that answers your question.
Okay, so
So Exile One was never a band in Dominica.
Nico, okay.
Exile One probably was on the road for 2 years before we played in Dominica for the first time.
Mm-hmm. So how do you assess, or how do you, in your how do you in your opinion, at the time, the commercial success, was it rewarding in your opinion?
It was extremely rewarding. The guys, we must be reminded that most of the guys were like 18, probably 19 maximum. They were unemployed except for Vivian Wallace, was employed at the post office. And when Fitzroy approached Vivian is still there, he could tell you, he had no hesitation, he just fired the job and came to Guadeloupe. But Exile One was fortunate that the guys who had no recording experience, they came to Guadeloupe, and within the first week, they were ready in rehearsal and started, how you call that? They started recording an album. So try to imagine, guys at 18, 19 went to a new country, a new language. Within the first month, they had already recorded an album.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a lot of luck because Debs had a nightclub. So before the record was released, he used to employ us to come and play our reggae and our funk on a Saturday night at his nightclub.
Mm-hmm.
So that gave some sustainability.
Mm-hmm.
And then records started to sell. But most of all, we started touring all over immediately. And that can easily be researched. We went to Martinique, Guadeloupe, all the Caribbean islands. We played in all the Caribbean islands. St. Lucia, Tortola, the US Virgin Islands, and we went to Europe as well. So from touring, and that is why I always say to young people trying to get into this industry, you have to look at the various revenue streams. One of them is getting royalties on the sales of record. We didn't get much of that because we were paid one shot for a record. So the idea of the producer at the time is there are no royalties. I am going to pay you to do the record.
Mm-hmm.
I will promote it because I want to make back my money and make a profit.
Right.
By promoting it on the radio, you are going to get gigs. So that was the deal in those days.
Mm-hmm.
But you still get paid from playing in the clubs, right?
Yeah, that's what he's saying.
Yes,
Yeah.
that was something else. So the club was like, and plus he's giving you gigs regular gigs at his club. But
Mm.
after we became very popular, we became too expensive for him.
So before you go any further, my question to you, say you took 2 years. Why took you guys so long before you could go home and play? That's a long time, 2 years.
Because one, nobody in Dominica knew anything about card and slipso, and they didn't care about
Okay,
card and slipso
I got you.
in terms of the public. Two, Dominica wasn't equipped to pay us because we made a giant leap, you know. When we used to tour, for example, we were based in Guadeloupe. When we used to go and play in places like St. Thomas or Tortola, in those days, there were no, like today, you can just get on a plane with your hands swinging. When you reach there, front line and back line and everything. In those days, we had to travel even to France with all our equipment in the
Wow.
system.
Yeah.
And in those days, the Hammond organ was very popular, and the speaker was a big box thing called a Leslie speaker. And when we went to play in some countries, Liat's plane was too
Too
small.
small. Yeah.
We had to be renting a plane that would suitable to carry the equipment. And
You used to rent a plane?
but all the
Man,
time we went to
man,
the
you were really big.
no, but there's no other way. There was no ferry,
Yeah.
and there were semi-cargo planes that carried dashing and whatnot up and down the islands. So that was available. So we rent planes to go to the islands, to St. Lucia, to Tortola, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and what we see happening with Bouillon, with guys, there are probably 3 or 4 bands, but you see more Bouillon singers or artists.
This, yes.
Yeah, we had the same phenomenon.
But the whole band. Yes. Yes, 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 yes.
So how long did Exile one last though?
Well, I would like to tell you that it lasts up to today because you're watching the one.
All right.
But seriously, the good thing about your question is the original Exile one. If you watch the first album, that doesn't have any card and calypso at all. We are all dressed in African Yoruba robes. And you notice that we had Ipo men, the same guy.
I think I have that album somewhere there, you know, that LP.
Yeah, so there's no Creole on it or anything. So we had Ipo men with us. And the reason that we had Ipo men with us is we intended to target the Martinique Guadeloupe market too, and we needed someone to sing Creole. But when Carter slipped so by accident, and it's not by genius, you know, it wasn't by genius that we decided we're going to invent anything. We tried to save our heads from tomatoes or eggs or whatever. And that is how we started this thing by accident.
Yes, yes, yes. I understood.
And Ipomen was not there. Because had we known that the Creole was necessary, we would have brought him to France with us.
Right. Right.
And the other Slipso would not have been born. So,
Wow.
so everything happens.
So let me just veer for a minute and talk about just Casa briefly and Zouk. All right. So, you know, you just detailed how Kata Slipso came to be.
Right.
What about Zouk? Is Zouk an offshoot of Karas, or where did Zouk come from?
For many reasons. First of all, if you read or you interview, I can arrange, well, I don't know how good your Creole is, but Zouk began with two gentlemen. One of them is Freddie Marshall, and I'll tell you who Freddie Marshall is, and you can research it. And the other one is Pierre-Edouard Decimus, who was the bass player of Viking. So permit me to boast a little bit. When I entered Viking, played with them, made a band, and started a genre before Zouk.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Freddie Marshall was the manager of my label based in Guadeloupe. So I had Soul Tone in France, and I started Soul Tone France, that I called it, in Guadeloupe, and I had Freddie as the manager of my label. When I produced Ophelia, Ophelia started to take off. Well, because before Ophelia, few ladies were accepted in the Creole. Jocelyn Berroa was already a singer, but she didn't sing Creole. And I know Jocelyn because Jocelyn sang on the Fresh album of Exile One. Eh?
Oh, she did.
Oh yeah, look at the back of the jacket. And another great female singer called Edith Lefel.
Edith Lefel, yes.
This now, but if you look at the back of the Fresh album, you'll see these two singers. So all of this is before the explosion. So Freddie Marshall was the manager of Soul Tone, and he was handling all operations for Ophelia. I don't know when you interviewed Ophelia if she spoke of Freddie, but Freddie, I have recordings in case that people forget of, because I'm doing a documentary that started almost 2 years ago and interviewed everybody across the Caribbean that I ran into during that period. And Freddie can give you the whole history of how he saw young Ophelia becoming a diva and that sort of thing. The other one is Pierre-Edouard Decimus. Now, Freddie and Pierre-Edouard, after the success of Exile One, while he was still manager of Soul Tone, told me that he was going to start a label himself. We are good friends up to today. I am the godfather of his first kid. For those watching us, a beautiful young lady.
Yeah, my granddaughter.
Super. Hi.
Say hi.
Hi.
Great. So Freddie and Pierre-Edouard decided that they're going to start something big. Okay? Freddie started his label called FM Production. And the first 3 albums of Kassav, if you research it, they are all 3 on the FM Production. Freddie is one of the main composers and singers on these 3 albums. One of them is a remix that was done by, strangely, the guys of Taboo Combo in New York. All of that was an attempt to get into, as I told you, the American market. So this probably answers the question, the direct influence musically on the creation of Kassav and the industry influence that most people don't know and probably will know if and when the documentary, because there's detail of the transition Kada Slipso into Zouk.
Wow. That is awesome. I mean, we've heard, unverified stories and stuff, but to hear it from you, that is an awesome achievement and something that I think we should be very proud of
Yeah,
because
but most people don't know, huh?
yeah,
But why I'm taking so much time to do that
t-
documentary, because I want to give empirical evidence.
right.
I interviewed Freddie. The records are there to be seen. The names of people still exist. And but they're in French. Debs, there is a very interesting documentary on Debs that is available where most of what I said tonight is spoken, and I am a guest in that documentary.
Where is it available? Where can I see it?
Vimeo. What I can do is because you need a password,
Okay.
so I can send you all of this. All
Okay,
of
please do. Yes.
There's another one on Pierre Edouard Decimus where he speaks of from love. And the only thing it's whenever these stories are said in these documentaries, and I am invited to speak, I have to be you Americans have an expression politically correct. Because my market, remember, Dominica is not my market. I get employed in Dominica now and then, and sometimes like in the festival. But in the festival, people, there are lots of things that people don't even see and understand because you're not in the business. When you look at the poster, and I'm not drifting, when you look at the poster of the World Creole Music Festival, the first edition, you will see that my company, Gohen Global Entertainment, is one of the sponsors. I was told that the government promised 400,000 and put only 200,000. You would not imagine, because it would take another program just to speak of my financial input into this festival that is celebrating 25 years. Even one of, to me, my greatest supporters in Dominica, Wadix, I don't know if he's aware of my financial contribution in this festival. Setting up Q95, that has become more of a talk radio and all of that. I didn't start that for these purposes. And
what was it started for?
music.
Oh, I sent you a thing. Thing tell me to say hi to you, Joe Cam.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
DJ
Joe Cam
Joker.
say he's one of them guys that push that music while a DJ and radio. And he was telling me that Q95 was set up to play Kana's music and so because the other stations wasn't playing the music as I forwarded that information to you, Don.
Well, when we started Q95, it was all about being Dennis Joseph was the manager. It was a company that comprised Sheridan Gregoire, Dennis Joseph, and myself, and it was all part of the industry thrust to bring in radio and popularizing music and all that sort of thing.
So how did they shift then? How did they go wrong? How did they go that way they are now?
I don't know if they went wrong.
Not wrong. No, sorry. That's a big shift. You said it was made for music, but it's more or less of a talk show radio. So what do you think happened?
Well, first of all, Dennis Joseph split from the thing from the company. I sold my shares, although I never got paid. I've always, and I am saying it again.
You quit your shares.
Yeah. And I'm saying I there's I want to put on a waiver. My name is Gordon Henderson. This radio station is not responsible, so don't sue them. If you have to sue anybody, sue Gordon Henderson, because there's no defamation when there's truth. I can prove, and I always bring empirical evidence of money that I spent, that I incorporated a company called Weiss. I imported the radio station, and in those days it was not electronic. I imported a whole heavy radio station from France. It went to Martinique. When it went to Martinique, I couldn't bring the radio to Dominica. I had to pay from my pocket to send it from Martinique to Florida, and to get, I forgot the name of this cargo company that used to come with a fairly large aircraft to Melvin Hall. And that's how the radio station started.
Is Amerijet?
Amerijet. So, and all this big iron and so on, and we started the radio station. And it started pretty well with music. But I think, to make a long story short, the music thing was not very viable after a while because of politics. And I think that the best option was to move into talk radio.
Yeah, that's what draws people, to people like drama, controversy, politics.
Yeah.
So
Mr. Anderson, I have a question for you. I know our time is limited, but there's something about the midnight groovers. You talk about the Kadas and the thing. These brothers have a style that I don't think nobody can duplicate or photocopy. What do you think of their what do you think? If so, what do you think that is? I mean, I have heard bands like Mimic You, Exile One, Gramax, but Chubby, about something about Chubby, I don't think I ever heard anybody try to, photocopy or. You understand what I say? Where I come from? Is like question clear enough?
I understand you and I agree with you. My explanation is, this is true about every genre during what I would call the analog or acoustic age. Let's take reggae. Before the digital age, you had bands like Third World, Wailers, all of them.
Yes.
They all had Inner Circle. They all had their definitive sound. Yes or no?
Yes. Correct. Yes.
Correct.
The same thing as Kadaslypso. Chubby and Co. together. And we can say the same thing about Bell's Combo, The thing is that people in Chubby and Co., they have been more consistent. They lasted longer. They're up to today. And I'm very happy that at one time, they were practically dead. They had not recorded or played anywhere for about 6 years. That's when I came back to Dominica to set up Q95, set up a recording studio. I brought them back to the studio and got them to produce an album titled Hypocrites. I don't know.
Of course. Yeah.
Yes.
Because I love the guys. They have a very unique sound together.
Mm-hmm.
So you find that in all kinds of music. They're Jamaican fellas, the Biss Barrett brothers or whatever
Yeah.
Yeah.
they have the
Yeah.
sound. So in the Kada Sleep, so you have these two brothers when they come together. Another thing is Chubby is a particular talent that people have to develop music appreciation to really truly appreciate Chubby because they like Chubby and they seem to like Chubby for the very fast songs. But Chubby is a very varied artist. Chubby has much more experience than a lot of the Cadaslypso singers because I don't know if you know that Chubby was a Calypsonian who even won the road match in
Much. Yes.
as a Calypsonian.
Yes. Yes.
So there is experience, there's style. Chubby used to play the bass guitar and sing.
Sing. Yes.
And this is something that because I played bass, I played guitar, but playing bass and sing is something you have to develop. I saw Chubby sing at the Arawak Cinema, or well, I think it's called the House of Culture
House
now,
of culture.
right? Playing the drums and singing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the best that I ever heard. Midnight Groovers, with Chubby
On
on
drum.
drum.
Yeah.
But a lot of people overlook that because they just like the fast ones, pop, 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 and they think this is Chubby. The best of Chubby, there's a song titled Milk and Honey. It's not a
Yes. Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
fast song.
Yeah.
It's melodious. The harmonies are great.
Yeah.
And that is why I am very careful with the words legend. Okay, Chubby is a legend, but sometimes he's called a legend for the wrong reasons. Milk and Honey is one of the tracks that should be listened to and analyzed.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
Last thing on Chubby, and that is all these things that motivated me. I wouldn't say to produce them because, in fact, they were produced. I just gave them the studio to do Hypocrites and put them for the first time in the position where they would be owners of their works. I tried my best to get them to get into the copyright thing. I think they went to see Mark Murray. I don't know, but we are not cut from the same cloth. I don't know of the progress. But I think that they lost a lot of money not getting into copyright.
Mm-hmm.
They should have.
Yeah.
The last thing I said that I was going to say about Chubby is Chubby is quite a poet. Chubby, when he writes, if you listen to his songs, he respects meter, he respects rhyme. He's a poet. And this is not always true with a lot of the songs. So you see, there are a number of things that make them unique.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had him on there too, and he say when he think of making music, he say his music has to be sweet. He say that's how he describe it. Sweet music. That's what he makes.
Well, I'm very happy to hear that because I think his best music is moderate tempo. But Dominicans seem to like, well, you can see the bouillon craze. In my opinion, the Dominican society, the music appreciation is more about carnival music. I believe that a stable society, Caribbean society, should have time for romance, music for romance, music for funerals, music for
Yes.
worship, music for carnival. And my preference is I like Chubby, the sweet. but people would force him.
But
If that's what the people want, give it to them. Why
yeah,
not?
yeah. So I think they are unique, as you say, for all the reasons you stated. Also for the tempo of the music. I mean, for the most part, the tempo is upbeat. Is upbeat and it's dancey.
But you yourself just admitted that he likes the sweet. And when
Yeah.
I was
And
with
the message too. There's a lot of
Right,
message in it.
right. So yeah.
you cannot transmit a message.
No, well. Actually, he's able to pull it off because when Chubby comes and he sings and he says stuff like parler c'est bota kene no muna moi moka parler pour ça. Even if this song is up tempo, he sings the song so clearly and the message is so potent.
That's easy. That's easy for any experienced singer, composer like him. That's easy. But I know from speaking to him, and obviously from speaking to you, his preference, because the upbeat. Because when people describe music in Dominica or artists, they like to talk about energy and words like that. But carnival music has its time. If Chubby had I consider myself fortunate. The market that I cater for in general, I come with variety. I have no problems in recording. I wrote and recorded Chueyo,
Livenage.
even as
In one road match in Dominica, huh?
Yeah.
yeah, well, the road match is the Calypso Association's thing. So it was the most played.
Yes, I remember that.
It didn't get road match because you're not part of the.
Of course, the Calypso. Okay. Well, it was the unofficial road match in Dominica.
Yes. But all of that to say that I am for carnival music. I am for bouillon. And what you just said about putting moderate melodies on up tempo is demonstrated in bouillon.
Bouillon.
I listen.
No, there's bouillon and there's nasty business,
No. You're quite right.
Okay.
Again. But the point I'm bringing about is last year or year before, there was up-tempo music with Celine Dion's melody.
Yes.
So this means that the music, the accompaniment can be up-tempo, and then you can sing a church song.
Yes. True. It's true.
The nasty business, I know that we have got a lot of time, to me, is not the big deal that everybody's talking about. Every genre that I know, and I've been in that business for over 50 years, has its category of nasty business. The blues. Have you guys ever heard a song called Constipation Blues?
No, I don't think I have.
Okay, so I wouldn't give you more examples, but you can go on YouTube and look for a song called Constipation Blues. That is the depth of the blues music. You know very well that the dancehall has had or still has its share.
Still has, yes.
The bouillon nasty business, the public is the one, and I think that they're shifting away from it. It's our society that decided, the bus drivers and the whoever plays music in public, that they would not make it selective. Rap found a way to make it selective, that they would make two versions. And that is the only problem with nasty music. You always have in Zouk, they had Frankie Porno, he's called.
Frankie Vincent.
Yeah, Frankie Vincent, but if you say Frankie Porno, he's not going to be hurt, eh?
And Iwa.
Yes,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, yeah, the late.
Yeah, with the little Iwa.
Yeah.
Kaglise.
Yeah.
So you see what we nasty business exists in every popular genre of music, but in Dominica it became a societal number one. In every other society, it is marginalized, but we had it as it took over bouillon.
Let me ask you a question because people have the notion to say that nasty business, that's the furthest Dominican music has ever gone globally. Is that true?
That is wrong, man, because these people don't know anything
Thank
about
you.
how music has been. Has nasty business sold more than 1 million records?
I don't
Has
know.
nasty business in
No.
company? Has nasty business? Is it on the Jamaican market?
No.
I am saying that because you can go on YouTube on the Dynamic label. I told you my very first hit, Love, was, but if you just go on my Facebook, maybe 3 or 4 stories ago, I showed the empirical evidence again. The copies. Exile One's reggae album titled Lion was released in Jamaica on the Dynamic label, and Exile One was manufactured and distributed in Japan on the King's label. I am happy with and without Exile One to have performed in at least 10 African countries and repeatedly. The fact that Anthony Gossi lives in La Réunion, Reunion Island in the Indian Ocean, it's because Exile One and Barclay, because Exile One was at Barclay, and Barclay had that power of distribution in the world, be it Germany, whatever. That's how it went to the Indian Ocean and became, up to today, Cadence Calypso is more popular in Reunion Island than Dominica. In Dominica, people, there are certain people who give it some respect, but it's still considered as passé. So bouillon has much to be done. Another thing I noticed with the bouillon, its growing popularity is nice, but it is always included with many artists on a set, and often associated with soca or some kind of thing. I say that to try to explain to people that don't understand. At my age, and after all this time, when I go to do a concert in my market, you can see a Gordon Henderson concert. Not Gordon Henderson and 300 Zouk fellas. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
I dare say I am in the Creole market, because people like to say cadence, but a lot of people, when I go to play in a number of countries, they have forgotten this thing about cadence. They just see me as a Caribbean Creole artist, and I like to market myself like that.
Right.
And that's it.
Let me ask you, what was the biggest crowd you guys already played in front? And
Well, my biggest crowd was in Cape Verde Island in the festival, where there were over 100,000 people. Mauritius in the Indian Ocean, where there might have been close to 100,000 too. Haiti. So since you say you guys,
I said,
Yeah, because the early guys, there were no Exile One fellas with me in Cape Verde or in Mauritius. So the early Exile One fellas, that only stayed with the group maybe 3, 4 years, huh? Because people don't realize these things. Aki Aka and Fresh, at one point it was only Vivian Fitzroy and myself towards the end, but in the early years, maybe the largest crowd was in Haiti in 1976. And many Haitians thought we were Haitians. So in terms of crowds, yeah, French Guyana too, in the early years, when we went there, there were thousands of people at the airport. I didn't understand what the people were doing there because we were not used to that. We didn't know. They made us into stars. We didn't know what star. We didn't know we had reached that level. We thought it was an international airport and all these people were there for travel, but thousands of people came.
Okay.
Yep.
So let me ask you, you think our Kadas, like, you think our Kadas is dying?
Well,
Seeing that you know, huh?
Cadas is like reggae. I think, or any other popular genre. And that too would require a whole program of musicology of modern Caribbean. The way in the Caribbean, when we have popular music, they usually progress by decades, every 10 years. Let's use Jamaica as an example. When I was a boy, there was ska or rock steady.
Right.
Then it moved into ska. It moved into reggae. It moved, and even reggae had subgenres, one drop and this and that, and then moving to dancehall. Then it spread in the Spanish reggaeton, and it moved and it keeps moving. So they have a change of name as the variations come with each generation, because there's no culture in the world, in the modern world, where you see teenagers and grandfathers digging the same music. So every generation has a new input, a new generation, a new variation. Haitian music, compa direct. That is what I discovered in Guadeloupe in the early 70s. The Haitians never changed the name. They still call it compa. But if you listen to Tabu Combo and you listen to Karimi, after all, unless if someone is tone deaf, they will notice that it's a different variation.
Yeah.
It is the same thing with Kadas. I always tell guys, Kadas is the music of the 70s, but it evolved into Zouk and it evolved into Bouillon. Because if Livenage 3945 Trio is modern Dominican music, and Bouillon is defined as modern Dominican carnival music, well, I think it tells a story. It evolves, it evolves. So the cadence of the 70s, that question is so important. It's like Calypso. In Dominica, when people say Calypso, they exclude soca, because they feel that Calypso is only the music of Trinidad from 1910 to the 1950s, ending with Kitchener and Sparrow. And when Shorty came, some kind of music fell from the sky. Boom! Soca. and it's a new. No, there's continuity. But
Yeah. Yeah.
the whole night talking on that.
But so I have to ask you. I sometimes scroll around Facebook and I forgot this. There's this Facebook page where they show a lot of artists practicing. Doing
Oh,
practices.
JR Studio JR.
Yeah, right, to do JR. So I've seen you there some couple times, and it looked like it's a practice for some performance. Am I correct?
Yeah, it's a rehearsal studio.
Rehearsal studio, okay.
So whenever you see me there, that means I have a gig. It is in Martinique. That means I have a gig in Martinique.
Okay.
And when I perform, I might be billed as Gordon Henderson, or I might be billed as Gordon Henderson / Exile One. So it depends on who is. So if you look at the rehearsals with me at that studio, it might be only Martinican musicians. Sometimes there might be Dominican musicians only. Sometimes it might be a mixture of both. And this is one of the things that I've been doing is I have bands ready to perform in Guadeloupe, Dominica, Martinique, Paris, and Reunion Island. So, and all of this, there are two reasons for that. One of them is for costs, because sometimes promoters cannot pay for travel and hotel accommodation for a whole band. So I travel by myself, and that proves a lot. This Dominican music is played, especially in the Indian Ocean, where their beats are not 4/4 like us. Their beats are different, and they know it and they can play it. And you can listen to YouTube and listen to all these various bands, how they play our music. So that's a way of exporting it, like how Americans eat pizza, but it's not, it's an Italian dish.
Right.
So
Yeah.
all these people consume cadence calypso.
Okay.
Prepared
So
by-
you still perform and tour extensively?
every year. I've never stopped.
That's
And
good.
but if you check my Facebook, which is open to everyone, or my YouTube channel, which is called Goen Global Entertainment, you will see me going all over the world. And I try not to do small gigs, because I realize that I might be wearing this young man cap, but I'm not a young man anymore. So I do fewer gigs, but I do the big gigs, like the festivals.
Okay.
Time is almost running on us there, but I don't know if you might have a little from music, but Creole is 2020 world music Creole thing, 25 years. How many years have you performed on the big stage in Dominica?
Well, I've been asked that question recently. I can't remember. I think maybe 4, probably 5 times.
That's all? Is there a
Yeah.
reason why?
I don't know why. There have been many shifts. There are times, but I think the fundamental reason is before this year, there was a long period where people believe that cadence is old people's stuff, and making surveys in Dominica among the youth to try to attract people to the festival. And how you expect kids or people of 25 years to want artists of their music is 50 years old and so on. They're not going to tell you that your music stood the test of time and tell you that it's old people's music.
That's a shame.
Yeah. But let me ask you, as we conclude, I can boldly say that you have done a lot for music. All right. And I'm very proud to know that, you were very influential in the establishment of Zouk music, all right, which is huge. Kassav has become a international acclaimed band. So you have done a lot for music. What has music done for you?
A lot, a lot. First of all, as a songwriter, I'm 76 years old. And because of my earnings at SASEM, and that there are not many Caribbean artists that can say that. Because when you talk to young artists in Dominica, they don't want to be like me, you know. They want to be like Trinidadian guys. When I was but just ask them that you can just see who they try to emulate.
Yeah, yeah.
That's very, very obvious. Um, when I was 55 years old, I became a pensioner as a copyright and a songwriter and composer. Okay?
Mm.
What has music done for me? That is already one thing. The second thing is the longevity. I don't see many artists with over 50 years on any of these festivals. Because Dominica is not the only festival. If you go on YouTube, you'll see on the Marigalant, on the Reunion, on the this, on the that, and so on. The last time I performed, Paris Hammond was the artist that did his sound check. I thought that Paris Hammond was of my age group. Paris Hammond is a young man compared to me. I only found out his age. So the longevity that music has given me, that if I had another profession, I don't think I would be able to be at 2 o'clock in the morning sitting down there with you guys and so on. You know? In terms of, so we spoke of copyright earnings, we spoke of investments. I would not have been able to co-finance the first World Creole Music Festival. And as I told you, it is written on the first poster as a sponsor. And the ideas that I had for this festival, including setting up a recording studio, a nightclub, a radio station, up to today, I can also tell you that I organized a concert in France. It was the year that the Jamaicans were in the World Cup. For the World Creole Music Festival, with all kinds of journalists and stuff. And the profits went to the Dominican Festivals Commission. And it has never been done before. And I will just stop there because I know we're out of time.
Yeah. So my last question, apart from your compositions for Exile One and of course for yourself, where you perform, do you still write songs for other groups, artists, and if yes, any of know that we know, like any big names that we know?
Well, I don't know about big names because but the answer is yes. I don't produce artists anymore, and produce because the definition of production has shifted a lot over the last few years. So I don't take any artists to the studio, record them and commercialize. I don't do that anymore. And I don't necessarily write songs for artists although I work with a young group called Zama. If you look at for Zama, they're very big in the Creole world. It's a vocal group. But where I become interested in that domain is many of the songs that I wrote before are being covered by, say, big names.
Right.
There's
Yes.
a song written by Fitzroy and myself, so we are co-owners, called Vayula,
Hmm.
and there is a cover that we're still getting copyright from all kinds of countries, from Israel
There,
or
there is a group. It is a big group. Artist. I'm not. I play it all the time on my program. Who has a
a cover.
no, not just a cover, like a medley with some of your songs. It's a well known group. I can't remember who it
But
is right now.
there are lots of them. There are lots of them because some of them did it without permission, and we had to be contacting them after.
Mm.
And so, but there are quite a few, quite a few. That song Jamais Voir Ça was there. There are, and you can get it. Kerovose, that belongs to me now because the first one who covered it did it without permission, and we had to go through all kind of legal channels. And in the final analysis, I had to end up getting the song, even with the Portuguese. So if you go on the SASEM website, it's open to everyone in English, and you can see that Jamais Voir Ça is slash Kerovose. There were 11, or not there were, there are 11 Portuguese versions of that song.
Mm.
And you must have known of DJ Bob Sinclair. He's French, but he moved to LA. And Vayula, that is available on YouTube. And strangely, some of the best, there's a site called You Sampled or Who Sampled. If you check it out, you will see that I wrote a song called You Have Lost the Battle. That was in my soul days, but I did it with Exile One. I was still hoping. And strangely, rap guys in the US, they have it sampled. In Finland, you can look for You Have Lost the Battle or just The Battle. There's a group called Ross and Friends. So I think they're inspired from a TV show series that was called Friends.
Yeah.
And some guy in England called himself Ross and Friends, who's pretty famous. Just the other day, a distributor from Belgium was asking me who is the one from Finland on the Universal label who sampled some of my songs, and I'm getting royalties. They did it legally.
Okay.
I do remember those people's names. I really care.
Let me ask you, Gordon, if one of those young guys would approach you, then buy your case to do a collaboration, like you see Rich and Chubby did. I don't know no nasty thing like a collab. Would you be done with that?
Yeah, but it would depend on what is the structure behind it, because it's not just about doing a collab.
Right.
You would have to have a structure that proper studios are used, but it's true, I know that fellas make that little bits and so on, and the market accepts it. But if you really want it to go as far as people think it can go, then you have to have budget for promotion. So, and we know exactly how to promote it, and it costs money. So the structure they would need to have the structure. And while we're at it, we can say that I have noticed that the government of Dominica has made many efforts in recent years to try to even inject money into the industry. But I think whoever is advising them doesn't know enough about the music industry, and all this money has been wasted, and too little money has been put in. The music industry is a very expensive thing if you want to be competitive. So to do a collab, you would need some wise man said that the raw material of show business is money.
Yeah.
Another question I have: do you think that the bouillon industry could form? Maybe I don't know the right word, like an association or something to do with that genre to see if we could, they could push it further and wider.
Well, I think it's well on its way, But the thing is that we mustn't forget that bouillon, like ska, like rocksteady, like reggae, like dancehall, all of these are trends. We mustn't get excited because Dominica is just like Zouk. Where is Zouk today? Do you find it normal that Kassav has been the biggest thing in Zouk, and we have never had an after Kassav? Guys are dying off in the group. When you look at them, to be very honest, the group has aged. It's normal. I mean, So I am saying all of this to say that bouillon has a lifetime. And we have to prepare for the follow-up. And you asked me a question, and when I say you, I mean Kojak.
Yes.
About nasty business. But nasty business probably saved bouillon, from extinction. And it's not because bouillon isn't good. Bouillon has a lifetime like every genre. And the bouillon of WCK is not the bouillon of Triple K. And the bouillon of Signal. So fortunately, like Compa, they kept the same name. But it was on its way down, and nasty business saved it. Unfortunately, as the name implies or states, nasty business, you cannot go anywhere and everywhere with nasty business. But the beat and the style, and there are lots of things that I like about nasty business.
But things like what?
There is a guy called Suki Bunbrain.
It gripping.
No, well, I am not attracted. I don't even know what you're talking about, but I figure that's part of the lyrics. Well, I find the lyrics, but anybody can talk about nasty business where you put your finger and all this.
Yeah.
That's absolute nonsense. And that should be enjoyed by people at that level among themselves.
So you like Suki Bunbread?
Yes.
What about him you like?
I think that he has a persona. It's true that he has a mental problem. I don't know.
They say he's mentally challenged.
Yeah. But first of all, he has a look. Yeah.
His head tied with the horns.
Right. Okay. So in terms of marketing, visual marketing,
yes,
he dares, besides his lyrics, he has this crazy approach to marketing himself. Maybe he doesn't know that's what he's doing because he's very spontaneous. I once spoke to a lawyer from Grenada because you know that he was in a problem and he was imprisoned in Grenada.
Yes.
And then a lawyer from Grenada was telling me that one day he was visiting the prison on some business, lawyer business in there. And he saw a guy in the prison entertaining the whole prison. So he went, and it was Mr. Suki. And Suki told him, "Oh, I know you, man. You were a magistrate in Dominica, and you threw me in jail." You see? And then the lawyer remembered him. And he is the one who put on a case for him, although he was not employed for that, and got him out of jail to explain, because it looked as though his charge was, if I'm not mistaken, something dealing with
Some young girl.
a minor and so on. And in reality, it wasn't really a case of rape. It was a semi-crazy guy who saw probably someone that was 15 that looked 20, and he thought that he could hold her or hug her or whatever, and he found himself in jail. So all of this to tell you that he has a persona, and probably if he's mentally stable enough to be managed and give him some suitable lyrics, the same way that they give to the rap guys that say the nasty stuff, but they give them some radio-worthy stuff. If he was properly managed, that is, if he's capable, I don't know. I've never met the guy.
No, they say he can be, he just has to be, you just have to have him on a leash,
Yeah.
But let me say that and we have to go.
Yep.
Let me say that you said bouillon, like every other genre, has a shelf life.
Right. You said
I don't know.
it better.
I
You said it
don't.
better than me.
I don't know. I don't know if that is accurate.
Give me an
Because
example. Give me one example of any genre of modern music that has not, I don't say evolved,
or you say modern music. You say modern. Okay. You see, I thought you said like every other genre.
No. I it's a good thing. I hope we're recorded. Modern music.
Okay. Then
Because
I can agree.
look at this
Then
system with
then I can agree with you here. Okay,
I
because
use Cook as an example.
yeah. Okay.
And I use Kassav because where's the follow-up to Zouk? When the follow-up of Zouk,
Yeah. Okay. So okay. Yes. So there may not be another Kassav, right? But the Kassav music in that genre of Zouk is not gonna die. Just
No,
like
but you must be careful what I say, and that doesn't mean it will die. Because Elvis Presley's music is still alive.
a top earner
Yes.
every year.
Yeah, but it is not on the hit parade. That's why I tell you, and I like your expression, shelf life.
Right. Okay.
So
Yeah. But
that doesn't mean that it becomes useless, because
right.
it's not useless.
Yes. So. But when you say okay, so when you say shelf life, okay. Elvis Presley music is not on the hit parade. Okay, fine, because of course new things come along all the time, and things is trending. What is new? But all the trending music that is trending or that are number one, they don't make money like Elvis Presley music. Most of them they don't, or Bob Marley music, they don't.
I use myself as an example.
Thank you. Exactly.
But
So your music in this when it's in 70s is in my mind, is still top quality music that is gonna endure forever.
Forever.
Hopefully.
It
But
will. Rosita, those kind of
it's
music, they're common, man. But
Fresh,
them
yeah,
things
yep.
cannot die. Them things, when you hear them things, like I have an Exile one, then I still have my turntables, LP. And when I play that thing with my analog song, nothing can see that.
So trends doesn't necessarily mean, sustainability. Trends is come here today and gone tomorrow,
you're
right?
very, you're very right.
According to Cornell says shit sells, man.
Yeah, but you brought up a very important point. It's only time will tell us if there are certain elements of a trend, because Elvis Presley was in the rock and roll trend, was a trend then. So some will survive and some will die. And,
That's right.
and if you notice that the bouillon hits, because it's carnival music, because when I used to tell the guys before, you guys have the best carnival music in the world. Maybe because of what we call in Creole, Wespe Ime, human respect. They used to say nothing, but they think I used to insult them by calling their music carnival music. But it was not an insult. It's carnival music. And carnival music, by definition, in the carnival market that they're doing, Notting Hill, Labor Day, all the islands, you must renew it.
Yeah.
You can. So there's a WCK song, Balance. Is
Balance
it
Batty.
Balance Batty.
Balance Batty? Might be one of the standards. So it's not every song or every. You understand?
True.
So Kassav has its standards. I cannot go and play anywhere and people don't ask me for Rosita. Whether I like it or not, I still must sing it. So
Yeah.
songs will resist. Balance Batty will resist. But 90% next carnival, you forgot them.
Yeah. It's true. True. But it has been a fascinating conversation, and of course we could go on forever.
We need a
If-
part two, though. We have to have a part
definitely need a part two, because there's so much left to be said and uncovered. But time is against us, so let me say profoundly, I'm very, very, very grateful to you, and it's been an honor. I really do respect and appreciate and have the highest regard for what you've done for music. And like I told you before we came on air, I'm sure you don't even know the impact, or the true impact of your work. Like your big crowds will cheer for you, but all this, how you call it, personal conversations about, Exile One and Gordon Henderson, and from a little boy, and it resonates. So thank you, give you your flowers for everything you've done, and I wish you all the best as you continue, in your music journey, still looking young and strong and touring and singing, still singing good. Let God bless you with that gift and bless the world with it. Thank you very much, my friend.
For me, it's a true honor to have you there, because I remember growing up young boy, I only used to hear about Exile One and Gramax. As you say, it took you 2 years. You hardly used to hear those guys in Dominic playing. All you used to hear is their music. So, as I say, you're a legend, you're a black icon, and we want to give you your flowers while you're alive, man. We don't want to. And this is going to stay with me for a lifetime. There's some things you never forget in life. You know what I'm saying? And having you there tonight on BTGM Radio is an honor. And in the same breath and token, if there's any way you can help us push this radio, because the reason for this too is like to honor legends like you. Everybody in Dominica, never music, in sports. We have a long, I think next Monday we have King Rabbit. Next month we have Nickel Henderson, Roy, which I know we have.
Yeah, different disciplines. Billy Doc Truth is gonna come on sometime, so different aspects of our development and our culture. So
my brother, and knowing that you take that time out, man, that's a honor in itself.
What time it is in France now?
4:26.
Oh, wow.
No, but
that means a lot to us, man.
Yes,
It means a
no,
lot.
but I don't deserve a lot of credit. I went to bed first.
Oh. you had an early sleep.
I spoke to Breaker and he agreed to come on, but we'll have to do him do the recording early and play that.
Yeah, well, you can tell him the technique is go to bed early.
But I want you to say your final words to the people who are listening, and before we wrap up.
Well, I am very happy that you guys have an audience. I've been looking at the Facebook and whatever on my phone. So you have a very nice following. I am happy that the audience, I'm glad. But you guys, I appreciate you tremendously. And thanks a lot for reminiscing, looking back. It's great conversation. I hope that we were around a round table and we were breaking bread.
Yeah. That's why we call it vibes in. Vibes in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But maybe one day, probably you guys will come to Paris and do a show from Paris.
That'd be awesome.
Let's stay in touch, eh?
Yes, definitely.
But
Do you still do your thing in Paris, the television? I know you used to do television in
Oh,
Paris.
feel a little bit. No, I'm not doing it anymore.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Because I used to do it for the US, huh?
Okay. All right. Kodak, you were saying
so
something?
will you come back again?
Well, sometime in the future we can do, because there are certain areas that we started talking about, particularly what can assist the young ones coming in,
Yes.
Yeah.
because they're still weak on music publishing, that they don't seem to understand copyright. And I think together we can discuss and give them tips how to proceed,
Yeah.
My cousin there, he's a writer and his daughter is a singer. He writes bouillon, but the clean thing, the nice, clean thing.
But that is what will work, If bouillon is going to work, it has to be clean, because otherwise it wouldn't get radio play.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. All right, brother. So
Well, see you guys. Take good care.
yes, thank you very much. Good morning to you, and
And you
have a wonderful day.
good night.
All right.